Yeah. Here we go. One more time before the Cowboys, ultimately disappoint me on Sunday. Welcome to the Rink Rat Report Podcast, the podcast about the Toronto Maple Leafs. As always, joined by my co-host, Jason.
How's it going, guys? Good week. 2 days, 2 games since we last talked. 2 wins since we last talked. So good.
Pretty much, yeah. Because
good
we
scenes.
recorded on Thursday. We recorded.
Correct.
We recorded after the Anaheim game, which
Correct.
Honestly, I think we can just easily breeze through those 2 games. So We're going to quickly go through those because there isn't too much to say. I'm going to be quite honest here, but we'll talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to go into some trade discussions. One player, not even a trade discussion about him. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into, I want to take a quick look at the standings because we're almost at 40 games. The Leafs are at 38 games. A lot of other teams are at 40 games right now, meaning it's time to start peeking at the standings. It's not too early. We're almost halfway through the season. 2023-24 is almost halfway done. Before you know it, it's going to be the end of the season again. And the Leafs are not going to be disappointing us in the first round. So nice try. That's an unoriginal joke, and it's uncreative. But before we get into all of that, we know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Last night against the Sharks, I pulled a very good move. So I bet Noah Gregor anytime just because I was like, hey, former team, home, why not? He got pulled from the game due to illness. So his replacement, Nick Robertson, I put a little bit on him and bam, found the back of the net. So that was fun. Anyways, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. New customers bet just $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved. So let's get into the games. What stood out to you over these 2 games?
It might be this is kind of like extrapolating from not just only these 2 games, but like the last 4, and I want to say maybe the last 6. And that's just kind of how much more. And this might be completely because we're playing against Anaheim, San Jose twice, played against LA. LA's a respective team, but
they've lost 6 in a row.
Not fair. But not the toughest of competition. But I think that our D have really kind of come together and looked like a little bit better than it's looked in the previous weeks. And it's obvious, like it's probably a result of them just simply returning from injury and us kind of getting, I guess calling it injury regression, where like all the guys who got hurt at once, now they're starting to slowly come back. And now we have our full majority of our full proper lineup in there. So hopefully no one else gets hurt anymore, but like, man, like the D look a lot better. Jake McCabe, looks like he's really been stepping into form as of late.
Playing the right side too.
Yeah,
Jake McCabe playing the right side too. That's been huge.
Giordano looks,
Simon Benoit,
who also looked really good, like on the left side, like really good, like in context of like the player that he is, right? Like he's playing top 4 minutes for us, base like ish, right? Like that second and third pairing always kind of split minutes, so it's not really top 4 pair, but still. And also the minutes are going to get wonky when you blow a team out 7-1 and 4-1 or whatever those 2 games were. So, I was really impressed with the D and how we kind of handled how just kind of their improved play overall.
Didn't give up too much.
Exactly. And it's not even just about like our own play in our defensive zone, just in all three zones. I feel like we were doing better on the breakouts, making it a little bit easier on the forwards to break the puck out. Doing a lot, activating off the blue line, not being scared to kind of jump up in the rush in the neutral zone. Like a lot of good things that I noticed. So again, I could be that they're playing basically like an AHL team in the San Jose Sharks. No offense, San Jose, but yeah, that's like kind of the biggest thing that stood out to me this week.
Martin Jones, couple good games. The number one thing for
Him
me
as well, obviously,
is that
revenge games.
Yeah, a lot of people were complaining, hey, we lost points to Buffalo. We've lost twice to this year. They've lost to Ottawa twice this year, who Ottawa looks terrible. They fired DJ Smith. In those 10 games afterwards, they've outshot their opponents once.
Yeah. Can I just say, though, about the Ottawa thing? Like, they love
suck.
DJ. They suck. They love DJ Smith, and DJ Smith loved, like, it was such like a black swan moment for them to come into Toronto and beat Toronto because, like, former coach used to coach here. You know, it's like little extra more meaning for them in that game, which is probably why they played. That's probably one of their best.
Leafs played them that game.
They did. They really did. Was that the 6-3 game? I can't remember.
No, they beat them in 6-3 game and the 3-2 game, both in Toronto. But then in Ottawa, which is just another home game for the Leafs, essentially, the Leafs won that one, losing Joseph Woll, though. So
yeah.
But anyways, so that was my biggest takeaway, was not playing down to your competition, especially against Anaheim. I thought they played well against Anaheim as well. So those 3 games there, that was really, really key, because you play down to your competition there. It would be tough sledding after that. You cannot do that. Like last year they did that, and it was took a little bit, but then they got going afterwards. So that was okay. But I will say this. San Jose sucks. That is such a bad hockey team. I feel bad for anyone that actually watches the San Jose Sharks. I know one Sharks fan. He doesn't watch anymore. They stink. They have so many guys on there that are just not good. And they have, on top of that, I will say this, for a relatable Leafs fan moment. For anyone that actually watched the 15-16 Leafs, not many people did. I did. Watched way too much of them. The 15-16 Leafs, they worked hard. They weren't very good, though. The San Jose Sharks are like the 15-16 Leafs, minus effort, minus physicality. Could you imagine watching a full season of the 15-16 Leafs minus the effort? They stink. There are so many guys out there that are just so lost in the defensive zone. They have some guys that have a little bit of talent, but honestly, none of those guys deserve to be traded from that team. They deserve to rot there the rest of that season. There are not many guys at all. Mario Ferraro, sure, he tries really hard. He does. I'll give him that credit. But there are so many guys. I've watched San Jose in other games as well. There are just way too many guys making the same mistakes where it's just laziness. It's like, okay, where are you going? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why are you in this league? Because it doesn't look like you're playing for another contract. I feel so bad for those goalies, because Kaapo Kähkönen before last night was having actually a decent season. Mackenzie Blackwood has had some good games. He's had some bad ones. He played pretty well against the Leafs, I would say. And the funny thing is, the Leafs outscored the San Jose Sharks 11-2 over 2 games. They hit the post 6 times.
Nuts.
7 times, I believe, in those 2 games. Sharks got 1. They got 1 post. Okay. But the Leafs have hit the post. In California, I swear they hit the post at least 7 times. And then they come back to Toronto. They hit the post like another 3 times. Like it was a shit kicking, and that San Jose Sharks team is awful, and it's going to take a hell of a lot more than Macklin Celebrini to pull them out of the depths. But then again, we said that about Chicago last year, and Chicago is awful again this year. So
they might get Macklin Celebrini. Who knows with no Bedard there? But anyways, 6
weeks, broken jaw. Ooh, just keep your head up.
Just something that you mentioned there quickly that I wanted to touch on. I was pissed when we played Anaheim because I wanted to take a look at Radko Gudas. Was he going to get traded? Probably not. He has a 3-year deal, but like with the direction of the team though, with like this that Cutter Gauthier trade, like Drysdale trade. I don't know. Who knows where they're looking, what they're thinking of doing. because like, does he even? Anyways, I was bothered that he didn't play that game, but I was happy because one of the guys who's at top of the trade boards. I know I'm kind of like jumping topics here, but I just want to bring up Duclair a bit because I never like we got to watch. I got to watch his game a little bit more intensely to like these two games. And man, this guy lives at the blue line. It's crazy. He like loves to cherry pick. Like that's his thing. He loves leaving the zone. And I don't know if it was defensively. I don't know if it was him on the Riley goal, the Riley goal in the second game.
Oh yeah.
When Nylander went to the point, literally 3 guys on San Jose like chased them and like blew the blue line, and Riley just slipped right through, and Nylander dropped it to him. And like it was like, what are we doing here? Like I don't know. So
that was a bad defensive breakdown. What about the Nylander goal in the first game where he banked it from behind the
that was brutal. That was brutal.
What the hell was that?
The guy makes the first
that
save.
was in the NHL. They made at the top of the crease pretty much 2 passes. They completed 2 passes. I gets the puck, passes to Nylander. Nylander back to Tavares, back to Nylander. How like if you're an owner watching that, like you better be like going down to the GM and the president and saying, I hope this kid that you guys are losing so badly for is like the second coming of Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, because that was awful. And if I was the goal, like Mackenzie Black would almost smash his stick. Imagine making that save. That was an awesome save. And it just gets banked off you in the back of the net. Like, where is everyone? What were they doing? Like a bunch of nose pickers in the defensive zone on San Jose. Holy moly. You could have made like Sharknado. If the San Jose Sharks were a movie, they'd be Sharknado if you had a $13 budget and just for some reason a pile of feces that you had to use. That's the San Jose Shark. You don't have enough money for actual sharks. You have to replace all the sharks with feces because that's what they are. They're the fucking NATO storm. I don't even know what to call them anymore. They suck. That was so unacceptable of a hockey. That was not an acceptable hockey team at all. Just both games, I was like, why am I even – the Leafs are winning. Why am I even watching this? Like, this is horrible. Horrible. But on your point, Anthony Duclair, we'll get into him. Trade target. Yeah. He's on the trade boards.
He's on the trade board. His style of play is crazy. I don't remember that in the last –
he did not look like that in Florida. He did not.
Like he actually looked like he has zero fucks. He's like, just give me the fucking puck and get me as many fucking points as I can and get me the hell out of here. He was so like, I'm not even kidding you. Like he was.
I know, but you're not good. He's not good enough to be playing like that. Yeah. He's not putting up enough points to play like that.
Yeah. Like, how many points do you have this year?
Not many. not a lot. Let's say player stats.
14. Oof.
Oh, Thomas Hertl, who's actually a decent player. Like he's their only good player.
Yeah. But we don't care about him because he's signed for God knows how long. He's
signed for whatever. He's probably going to demand a trade though. Mikael Granlund's second. He has a weird stride. Eklund's actually a promising young player. Fabian Zetterlund is just the worst defensive player I've seen in a long time. And then you got Anthony Duclair. So congrats. You're on the worst team in hockey. You're an offensive only player, it seems like this year. And you are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th on your team in points with 14 and 37 games. And he's got a $3.5 million cap hit.
Yeah, they have a weird little setup here. I remember when they said like, oh, I forgot who it was. I think it was someone said on Sportsnet that during an intermission, I think this was like a month ago, Sharks are like willing to trade a bunch of like all their defensemen are available. If you look through their defensemen, who would you want? Realistically, it's very slim pickings. It's not like anyways. But yeah, this
Vlasic, the corpse of Alex
Mark Edwards, dude, that was hilarious when they're like, yeah, they're willing to trade Vlasic. First of all, yeah, he's not playing. Yeah. Second of all, he still makes $7 million for 3 years. They were barely able to get a good return for Carlson. Yeah. Like, what about Vlasic, who literally does nothing? Like,
if you're gonna be that bad, at least fight. Like, they called up Scott Sabern. I didn't even notice him until he high sticked someone.
I noticed him a lot.
He's nuts. He's a journeyman. He used to play for the Leafs, remember?
Yes.
Remember his only game? Guess who he fought?
I don't know.
Milan Lucic.
Oh.
Heard of him?
Yeah. I was at the game and I saw him and Gio were kind of going at it a bit because Sabrin hit. Like there was an offside call. It was like the whistle was a little late, and he gave like Robertson a little shot. So then Gio came in and gave him a little shot too, which is always good to see. The boys sticking up for the boys. So yeah.
You know
anyways,
what Scott Sabrin's most famous for?
The Matthews. What number?
Matthews jersey check.
Who are you?
Who are you?
What?
Yeah.
What? Where'd you come from? Who are you?
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of bad players on this hockey team. Yeah, I don't know who you get. Like Mike Hoffman before the season, I'd be like, oh, maybe more playing time. He's got a really good shot. Maybe the team could use him. He's got 13 points in 40 games, like not shooting as much this year, 8 goals in 40 games. So like that's whatever. But
Mike, was he playing last night? I didn't even know he was on the ice.
So, yeah.
I didn't even see him on the ice. That was crazy. Oh my god!
I don't know what like the Sharks are going to sell at the deadline. At least Chicago last year had like Jake McCabe, and this year they have Dickinson and they had Domi, and they traded Patrick Kane. Like, is Hurdle gonna be able to get moved? Does anyone want Granlund for $5 million? Like,
yeah, it's tough scenes out here for the Sharks. They can also only retain 2 contracts this year. So, they can only retain 1 contract.
1 contract. You can max retain 2. They're retaining Carlson. So good job, guys.
You can max retain 3. They're retaining Brent Burns as well.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It's just crazy. They got fleeced on that deal. Anyways, we're talking so much about the Sharks here. It's just fun to go through. Trade deadline.
Imagine if the Leafs end up in the same position as the Sharks. Oh my God, it would just. I would do full episodes on Will Smith. That would be it. That'd be all I could talk about. Oh, the Sharks played last night. I don't care. Their 4th overall pick.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the actor. Anyways, all right. Any final thoughts on the game? I guess.
Yeah, the Sharks suck.
Fair enough.
That's it.
Are you not impressed, but like, are you like overall happy with the trend, or do you see the same things that I saw, where like the general trend and the general direction of our defensemen are like kind of going in the right?
It seems to be better, and it's like Martin Jones is playing awesome. Everyone's citing he's got a .936 save percentage, which includes like 4 goals in the Buffalo game, which was an average Sharks game, it seems like. So his actual save percentage in games in which he has started is probably even higher. But it's been odd because Martin Jones has gotten a lot of starts against non-playoff teams. Like against Columbus, he played well. I will give him credit there. He did play very well there, but it was against Columbus. Again, like against Anaheim, he played well. But again, Anaheim's 4th last in the league. Against the Sharks, he played well, but the Sharks stink. Like then there's the New York game where I thought he played decently, but got a little bit unlucky. There was the other 7-3 New York game where he played pretty well there, I will say. And then there's Carolina and LA. So the majority of his starts have been against weaker teams, but he has shown some good play against stronger teams. So that's where I'm not going to go, praising Brad Treliving as the goalie guru or whoever their goalie scout is right now quite yet, because Martin Jones is playing very well. The D are doing a good job in front of him. I would just like to see that, like this weekend, the games go from Anaheim Sharks to then Islanders, who have been very, very up and down this year, and the
Oilers, I believe.
Avalanche and Red Wings. Next weekend is, I believe,
Oilers,
Calgary,
Flames, Vancouver.
Oilers,
Yeah. So we got
Oilers, Flames.
We got Vancouver, a little bit of a,
and then Seattle.
We got a big Western trip coming up here. And just quickly, like you mentioned about Martin Jones, he kind of ran through majority of his starts here. But so the Rangers played the Rangers twice, those playoff teams. LA, 3rd playoff team. Carolina, 4th playoff team. Buffalo, Pittsburgh. Do you count those?
Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh's right on the cusp right now. They're playing very, very well. And he made a 38 save shutout. I know they lost 7-0, but he made some good ones in that one. Like, I know in garbage, it's garbage time, whatever. But the other team is trying to score, and they got some good chances, and he made some good saves. So you got to credit him there. Yeah,
so let's give him 5 starts against good teams, 5 starts against non-playoff teams. 5, I believe he's 5. No. Oh, he's 6-5. 6-4. Oh, my goodness. 6-4. Anyways, so I agree. I think Martin Jones has been playing well, and he's definitely like helped offset Ilya Samsonov, which is massive. Speaking of which, Ilya Samsonov,
6-4 is in the split, or
like wins losses. Sorry.
no, he's 8-3.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the games the games he started. That's why. So the games that he's come in and has not started don't count on this list that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I
934. Playing well.
Yeah.
Again,
anyways,
limit the east to west chances. You got yourself a good goalie there.
Exactly, and Samsonov, which is what I was saying here, it's like going off of
So
Martin
that
Jones,
is a big talking point that I actually forgot to talk about. Yes. So it's a big one. And why? So Samsonov called up. Again, on this podcast, we're only saying that he's going to play well. And that's it.
No negativity.
That's it. He's going to play well. So it's a determination of who's going to start this Sunday. So this Thursday, it's going to be Martin Jones for sure.
Yep.
Then you got a back-to-back. You have Avalanche, very good hockey team. Then you have the Red Wings, out of the playoffs, but still a decent hockey team, can beat some good teams. Not the Red Wings of old, I will say. They're only 1 point out of a playoff spot with 2 games in hand, so they're fighting. They're still in the mix. So do you want to really start 34-year-old Martin Jones back-to-back, and then the next weekend after that, you have another Saturday, Sunday back-to-back?
Yeah. It's very interesting. So, like you said, we play Avalanche, Red Wings this week. Next week, same thing, Saturday, Sunday back-to-back, Canucks, Kraken.
So are you penciling in penciling in Ilya Samsonov for a start Sunday? Yes or no?
I have no idea, honestly. I really don't know. So something that's interesting about this little transaction here, someone on Twitter, I should have wrote down who it was. I should give them credit. I apologize for not giving them credit, but they mentioned that this could actually just be a paper transaction. To one, gives Dennis Hildeby some reps and starts in the AHL. And it's possible that the Marlies play Friday. I believe they play at home. The Leafs play Saturday, Sunday, both at home. So what the Leafs could easily do is just have Samsonov on the bench for tomorrow's game, which would be Thursday. Have Samsonov on the bench for the Thursday game. Let Hildeby go down to the minors, play his game.
Start Friday. Yeah.
Start Friday, and then come back up for Saturday, Sunday as a potential starter for the back-to-back. Is that possible? Maybe.
No.
I just don't see.
It's not happening. It was Nick Richard that said it. It's not happening. Why are you not starting him against Anaheim? And you're going to start him against the Detroit Red Wings?
Yeah, that's fair.
You could have started him against the San Jose Sharks. You had 2 opportunities to do so. You didn't do it once. Why are you starting against the Red Wings?
I have a question here then. Do you give Samsonov the first start against the Red Wings, or do you give him the first start against the Avalanche? Because one, if he goes out, here's the thing though. If he goes out against the Red Wings and gets crushed, that's a game you should win that you're going to lose because he got as a result of him playing bad, correct? Right? Like if you were to play bad, that's a game you should win. If he plays bad against the Avalanche, it's almost like an easier pill to swallow as a team to be like, hey, it's the Avalanche. They're actually a good team here. I don't know.
You're not playing the 85 Bears. Like you're the Leafs. You're supposed to be a good team. You have good players. If good enough players, you're paying half of them $11.5 million, it seems like. So how is then losing to the Avalanche, who are 41 games played, 55 points, you're 38 games, 49 points. Like they're pretty close to you. Like give Samsonov the easier start.
But why? But the only reason why we would give Samsonov an easier start is to kind of give him more confidence. If we know that we're going to go back to Wall, and we know Martin Jones is already, and we're okay with starting Martin Jones in the meantime until Wall comes back, why do we care about giving Samsonov confidence? Our goal should be to maximize wins. That's what our goal should be. Not
so then start Martin Jones back to back is what you're saying.
I didn't say that. I think Samsonov has the ability to be a good goalie. We've seen that. And I think challenging him is the best thing you can do. Then kind of give him baby step, like spoon feed him. I guess
baby steps. It's the Red Wings. You're not
it's
giving him the Sharks.
For sure, but like there's definitely a step up in competition between the Red Wings and the Avalanche, obviously.
The Avs,
so
yeah.
like I would just rather have Martin Jones starting against the Red Wings to kind of give us the better chance to win. Maybe I'm wrong here. I don't know.
You've seen Samsonov against the Red Wings though this year.
Yeah,
It's a
that doesn't
familiar
like
game.
so then that if anything, yeah, I guess that could be better for him. But
I would just give him the
I don't know.
second game. I mean, like you're on
On
the
top of-
back to back.
yeah,
Like
The
I don't
problem
think
is
there needs to be much logic behind it. Just like start your better goalie against the better team.
okay, that's fair. That's fair. Also, another problem with starting him on the second half of the back-to-back is that, again, naturally players play diminishes, like from the first back-to-back to a second back-to-back. So maybe there's like a little bit of fatigue setting in there. And we put it like it could actually just be putting him in a worse spot there with the team play in front of him. Well, who knows? Who knows? I personally would not.
Do the Red Wings play on Saturday?
That's a good question.
They do. They play at home versus the Kings, and then they travel up
So
the whatever. It's not a far travel, but it's
They
an
still
away
have
game.
Yeah.
So the Leafs have the advantage in that game.
Yeah. So I don't know. I want to win for sure one of those two games.
Of course. You want to win
Starting
both.
Martin Jones in Detroit, it gives you the best chance to win the Detroit game. So that's kind of my backwards logic here. But I think it's a good question to have.
And starting Martin Jones against the Avalanche gives you the best chance to beat the Avalanche.
So then we got to start in both games. Like just run them down.
You have to start Samsonov eventually. You have 2 back-to-backs on 2 weekends.
Maybe next week is the week against Seattle or an easier, less offensively potent team.
Maybe.
I don't know because the Red Wings can still score. So it's an interesting little, but will be cool to see who starts for us here. Pay attention to your phones to see who the starting goalie is. Because I think there's a lot that can happen there. Because and also pay attention to the waiver wire Saturday and Sunday morning. Because we could see
they call Hill to be back up. I doubt it, but that's it's
possible.
Crazier things have happened. It's entirely possible.
Yeah, if I told you that Ilya Samsonov had an .850 save percentage in January, would you believe me? Like, no, you wouldn't have. So we've seen some pretty crazy things.
You could have given me like 100 goalie names that played last year. I would not say that any of them would have an .850. Like,
just the way it works. Small sample gets the best of all. I think that's pretty much everything Leafs related this week. No, like you talked about the Nylander contract a bit. We don't have to go into it too much.
I did a 45-minute episode.
A lot. Sorry, you talked about it a lot, and it's already been talked about ad nauseum too. So
yeah, we're done.
But yeah, I think this kind of does affect though something that we mentioned earlier about like trade
stability.
Like what we're willing to give and what we're willing to like what we're going to be willing to part ways with at this trade deadline. I mentioned earlier that I thought Minton could be one of those players. First round pick could be available. Brad Treliving recently has come out just to talk about how he's this might just be to the media and like might be to other teams saying, hey, we don't want to trade these guys, and he might be willing to trade them. But it seems like with these moves, maybe we're probably not going to trade these guys, and we're not going to have that many assets here because we need those ELCs to fill in future years.
Mm-hmm. But I will say this: Kyle Dubas also said I didn't want to trade our first round pick.
Yeah, that's true. Too. That's true. Right? We but I think with this Nylander signing, one thing it does for trade purposes, it gives us one clarity for next year, and the clarity is that hey, like there's going to be like people are freaking out about a cap crunch. It's not going to be a cap crunch next year. It's going to be like a little bit tougher. Next yeir will be tight, but like theoretically in the future it should be a lot easier. So that's like kind of the
little bit easier.
All depends how much the cap goes up, which we really don't know about.
Yeah, you do 87.5 and then 92.5.
I mean, like future years. Yeah.
Way after that. Yeah, sure. Nylander at year 8. Let's get projecting on that one. But
most importantly, we need those ELCs to fill in, especially Cal and especially Minton for
potentially Robertson, potentially Steves, potentially a whole mess of guys. 100%. Yeah. I know. I see what you mean there. But I will say this: Brad Treliving doesn't often trade first round picks at the deadline, whether that be because of how good the teams are, what their needs are. Like there's a lot of context missing behind that, but he did it. It seems like once at the deadline, that is once not even at the deadline. Sorry, that was in February, this one trade I'm talking about, over like the last, I don't know how many seasons, like a lot of seasons. He didn't trade many first round picks to begin with, but he traded for Tyler Toffoli. I believe he gave like a first and a fourth and a little bit extra after that for like 3 years of Tyler Toffoli, which I think was an excellent trade for them because Tyler Toffoli was fairly good for them. But yeah, on top of that, like his first round, he didn't trade too many of them. I saw like he traded a first round pick for Hamonic, which didn't quite work out. He got a first round pick back in the Kachuk trade. He traded a conditional first, which there's like 100 stipulations behind this condition for in the Monahan deal, Monahan to Montreal. And then on top of that, I think there was maybe one more. I can't remember, but yeah. So he's not exactly a gunslinger. Like Kyle Dubas came in and his like first move was trading a first round pick with Patrick Marleau. He traded, I don't know. He traded a lot of first round picks.
I don't think, have we drafted? I think we've drafted one first round pick that we previously owned. Like that was actually our, no.
Yeah.
Do we even use one of our own first round picks during the entire Kyle Dubas tenure? Because I think we like trade maybe the Rasmus Sandin year. Maybe
we traded back on that one. That was
traded back though. That's the thing.
That was his first and only. That was because he just got into power like an hour before that.
True. Okay. But yeah.
But
anyways,
2019.
Because Rodion Amarov was
2020. That was a Kapanen. That was the Kasperi Kapanen pick. 2021.
We didn't have a first.
That was Matthew Nye's year, I believe.
So
we didn't have a first round pick.
Yep.
Foligno. That was the Foligno one.
Foligno trade.
Nice.
Yep.
Awesome. 2022. We didn't have a first. I don't even remember who they picked in that draft. Dennis Eldeby. Huh. Look at that. And then 2023.
Easton Cap.
It was the Rasmus Sandin trade.
Yes. Which is crazy. So we actually didn't have a first round pick for our entire.
In aggregate, yes, you're correct. We
like
did not use our own first round. In aggregate, we the only first round pick we made, he traded later.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Yep.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, his first two picks, I believe, were Rasmus Sandin and Sean Durzi. Either those were the two of the first three or the first two, because that Sean Durzi was a second round pick, and he ended up trading both those guys by the end of his tenure. So, yeah, that is very funny. But anyways,
you want to talk about some trade targets here?
Sure. What do you get to pick? Do we want forward? Do you want a D?
Let's start off with some D, because I feel like we highlighted that as like the most important like need, I guess, for the Leafs here is upgrade on defense.
Yeah.
So I mean, listen, no disrespect to Benoit, he's played great, but again, that's a spot you'd like to upgrade down the stretch. Because anyways, I think
he has some potential to play the third pairing. I mean,
sure.
Simon Benoit has given the Leafs a lot to think about. Like I realize this is a guy we're talking about. He has like 1 point. That's it. All right.
Yeah.
Or one or two. All right. Whatever. He's been solid for them. Like he really, really has been solid. His interior defense has been great. He's been fighting. He's been hitting. I find it very funny. Beginning of the year, people were like, Ryan Reeves isn't fighting. Oh, it's because Sheldon Keefe tells them not to fight. Sheldon Keefe tells them not to fight. I know it for sure. He's the one holding them back. And then meanwhile, we had like 3 games in a row worth of fights. So I don't know about that rumor there. So Simon Benoit definitely has given the Leafs a lot to think about in terms of keeping him on the roster for the rest of the season. So we'll add that. The number one thing I want to say about trade targets right now, the Metropolitan is the Metropolitan is quite a mess right now. When you look at it, it's one Rangers, okay, kind of they were projected to do decently, maybe at least be competitive, right? Hurricanes were projected to do very well. They're in second. Third is the Flyers. A lot of people wrote them off, including myself, which they could still miss the playoffs. They're tied, and I think the Flyers have the tiebreaker here, but same amount of points, same amount of games as the Islanders, who they're fighting for a playoff spot. They're right on the cusp. outside of the playoff spot, imagine this when going into the year saying this, the Devils haven't been able to figure it out. They've had some injuries. Hamilton,
Yeah.
Siegenthaler's now injured. Jack Hughes has been in and out of the lineups. The goalies have not been very good. Below them is the Capitals, who've been fighting, made a valiant effort there. Below them is the Penguins, who but they're 7-2-1 in their last 10, so they're fighting. They're still in the hunt there. And then last place is the Jackets. They're kind of out of it. But Jackets are a team that traded for players. They want to be competitive. I don't think who are they going to sell at the deadline there, right? Are they sellers? What is going to go on with the Jackets? So that's kind of confusing there. And so you have 3 teams tied at 44 points, and the playoff cusp right now for the Metropolitan is at 46. So it's so tight. So I don't think any of those teams are going to be selling at the deadline, right? So then you take a look at the Atlantic. Okay, the bottom 2 teams here, Buffalo Sabres and Ottawa Senators. Ottawa bought at the deadline last year. They missed the playoffs, but they are pretty good all in, trying to push for the playoffs, and they're in last place in the Atlantic.
One thing that's important to note, though, is they did have a regime change. So, based off of, I know you were just mentioning last year, just
that's
to kind of contextualize. So we could be seeing a change in philosophy with how they might manage guys.
Maybe.
Listen, I know this is crazy, but Jacob Chychrun, I know that Steve Stais didn't bring him in, right? Maybe Steve Stais doesn't maybe he feels
Steve Stais doesn't like him, then that's kind of moronic. He's been their best defenseman.
Obviously, but I'm just saying, listen, they need to move a defenseman. Maybe he says, hey, this guy doesn't fit in our window. He's a UFA in a year and a half, right? We could be having this conversation again next year. Who knows? So, yeah. Sorry,
I think they're going to kind of hold on. Maybe Tarasenko becomes available. Maybe Matthew Joseph they couldn't get rid of him at the beginning of the season. He's been one of their best forwards.
Yeah.
He was awesome against the Leafs, at least. I'll tell you that.
And on top of that as well, they have Shane Pinto,
he's coming back soon.
Yes. And they need to clear cap space to get him back.
Well, they haven't even signed him. Or maybe it'll be league minimum. I think
to sign him. No, he is. I think he can. No, he's not arbitration eligible.
No, I think it'll just be take the qualifying offer, which I don't even know what that is.
I think it's expensive, and I think that they'll have to clear cap space.
He was off his entry level deal.
Oh, okay.
So it won't be too bad.
Should be fine. You probably.
Maybe.
I mean,
won't be much. But yeah, maybe Tarasenko goes. Maybe Forsberg. Someone wants him. He hasn't been playing that well this year. And then you have Montreal, who that could very well be a seller. They're not quite there yet. And then you have Detroit, who they've spent a lot of money. I think they really want to. I think some of those guys really, really want to push into the playoffs there, which they can. I believe their point percentage is better than Tampa Bay. So they're on the line there. So not a lot of teams that are obvious sellers like there were last year. And then you look at the West and it's okay, Minnesota should sell. Chicago will be a seller, but maybe Dickinson, I don't know, out of there. The Blues are, again, in the mix, a weird one. The Yotes are a weird one. The Predators are a weird one. And then you look in the West, the Kraken have won 7 in a row. No longer sellers. Okay, and then you got the Flames, Ducks, and Sharks, right?
Yeah,
so
slim pickings.
Not a lot of obvious, not as many obvious sellers, but that's what I wanted to bring up there, right? So anyways, to look at some trade targets here, TSN released a trade bait board. So I'll read off some of the names they got here. They got number 1, Elias Lindholm out of Calgary. Number 2, Chris Tanev out of Calgary. Number 3, Jake Allen out of Montreal. Looks like they're probably going to go with Sam Montembeault, who's playing some good hockey, and they just locked up, and Caden Primo, who's a younger goaltender. Number 4 out of Montreal is Sean Monahan. Number 5 is Sean Walker. But as I mentioned, Philly's in a playoff spot. What are they going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Number 6 is Vlad Tarasenko. There we go. Number 7, Noah Hannafin. That's going to be, I don't know. Do they re-sign him? I don't know. Number 8, Anthony Duclair, as we mentioned. Look at that. Number 9, Andrei Kuzmenko. Number 10, Ilya Lyubushkin. 11, Pat Maroon. 12, Tyson Barrie. 13, Jake Gensel. 14, Trevor Zegras. 15, Andrew Peak. 16 Kubalik. And then I'm not going to read off the rest of these. There's too many.
There's a lot. There's a lot of players out there. One that I do want to mention that could be interesting is Nick Seeler, who is Sean Walker's partner in Philadelphia. But yeah, we'll get around to that later. Just because his name is also on the list here. On top of that, obviously Philadelphia
It's
just
lower, but yes, it is on the list. Definitely, he's a bit of a journeyman, but I've heard some good things about him. So
yeah. And if he fits with Sean Walker, like if you're a team that needs to like upgrade your defense, maybe this is like kind of galaxy brain here, but like I feel like you can get both of them and probably get them relatively cheap, and you have a pairing bang right there. If you feel like your third pairing is like completely inadequate, that's like a perfect tandem to kind of slide in there and eat minutes as like a borderline 2 third pair, like a high end third pairing, I guess is the best way to put it.
I guess
they're doing pretty well in second pairing minutes in Philadelphia right now. Anyways, didn't mean to sidetrack this.
Yes, but also Darren Dreger did say that Sean Walker could fetch a first, so I don't think it's going to be too cheap. He's playing some good hockey this year.
Fair.
So there's those players there. So trade targets for the Leafs. What do we need? What do we have? As we mentioned a few episodes ago, are you still on board? Number one trade target is defense.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the defense, what they have right now. They have Riley Brody, Benoit McCabe, Giordano Logren. There are no injuries right now on the defense, and that's how it's sitting, right?
Yep.
I think they should give Logren more minutes, but that's neither here nor there. So right now, Riley is paired with Brody. TJ Brody's not playing good hockey.
Yep.
You know you don't have that many assets. You know the GM doesn't want to give up too many assets. Feels like you got to find a Riley partner. Last year, they were miraculously able to do it with a third-round pick, right? I don't know if I want to. Do I want to talk about this guy this episode? Let's do it. Number 2 on the trade bait board, Chris Tanev is a target, right? Brad Treliving's very familiar with him. Brad Treliving actually replaced TJ Brody with him a few years ago.
Funnily enough, yeah.
Funny enough. Calgary's very worried about giving Chris Tanev away for market value, which I think is a little bit more than a third, right? He's a defensive defenseman. He has like 7 points this year. That's it, right? So how much does that really go for? But he could play 20 a night. So that's always good. Kills penalties as well. Minutes eater. So what's he really worth? Definitely more than a third. I would probably say a second, maybe a little bit. Josh Manson went for around that, I would say. So I like Tanev a little bit better, so maybe he goes for a little bit more, but I wouldn't say a first. I don't think his market value for a defensive defenseman that has been in and out a little bit with injuries, a little bit, not big. He hasn't been injured this year per se. Some injuries this year. Poco, right? So a second and a little bit, I would say. And he's an expiring deal. You'd have to re-sign him as well. Yep. What do you get with Chris Tanev? To me, the archetype is essentially Brody from beginning of last season. Picture that TJ Brody, right? Good footwork, defensive defenseman, good stick. I like the edges. He does a really good job. He's got some good range to him, I would say. And he does a good job at keeping a good gap between him and the opposing player. Similar to Brody, he's not the fleetest of foot, but he's a decent passer. I didn't see too many times he got hemmed in his own zone, right? I really like the anticipation. And the big thing to me, like the number one word when I was watching him that came to my mind with Chris Tanev was smothering. But again, he's not physical. He has like 7 hits this year. Very similar to TJ Brody as well. Mm-hmm. And like Brody, he has like 7 points this year, but he's playing a lot better than TJ Brody this year. I will say this. There's for the expected goals for percentage for Flames defenseman, I think it goes number 1, Nick DeSimone, I want to say, but he's only played like 6 games, so doesn't count. Number 2 is Zadorov, but Zadorov got way more offensive zone starts than him. And then I think number 3 is Tanev at around 50%. Pretty darn good, especially for a guy that's starting only 45% of his zone start, 45% ozone starts. That's like the lowest on Calgary amongst regular defensemen. The one concern, obviously, is he's older. Again, as I mentioned, not fleet as the foot. We saw what happened with slower-ish defensemen in the playoffs against heavy forecheck, and he's been beat up. He blocks a lot of shots. But I think that would be a huge upgrade and could provide a Shen-like addition for the Leafs to that Riley pairing and give them, they could give the Leafs 25 a night in the playoffs, right? So, in summation, not a physical guy, but a very good defender, good feet, good stick. Not going to give you a lot on offense, but I think could be a great fit with Morgan Riley and should not cost a first-round pick. In my opinion, he should not cost a first-round pick. So then your pairings could be Riley, Tanev, put Brody on the left side to maybe help him a little bit with McCabe, and then you go Benoit and either Liljegren or Giordano or someone like that. Or if, you're saying, Brody's been brutal this year, then you throw Brody on the third pairing.
Yeah,
right.
That's fair.
So it'll help your penalty
side,
kill, and it'll help. I think it'll immensely help Morgan Riley.
Yeah. I think that'd be a big thing because especially like you mentioned before, TJ Brody just doesn't feel like his old self playing on that right side. Yeah. So I would like to see him come back, play that left side here. I love that look. I love that little.
Yeah, and in terms of when you look at the trade board. Like Hannafin's going to cost an arm and a leg, obviously, and you're going to want to extend him, but it's going to be expensive. Is it worth it? That's another story right there. I think Hannafin's a good player, though. We'll say that. I'm not going to throw cold water on him at all. But in terms of these other defensemen here, there aren't too many top line guys, proven top line guys available. I don't think Tanev is a number one defenseman. I don't think he's a number two defenseman. I think he's in the same tier as Jake McCabe, right?
Yeah.
I think he's around that kind of capability. He's a good 3-4, right?
Yeah. But like you
don't have the assets to acquire a one. So
on top of that, there really is no other one available. Like you just said, there really isn't. Who can you? We can't just make up these people out of thin air and just be like, let's get.
You're not getting Mackenzie Weegar. I would love Mackenzie Weegar. You're not getting Mackenzie Weegar. He's 6'2", which I guess in some way, shape, or form, maybe you can make work, but I just don't see him available. He's just not available. He's a great defenseman. I would love Mackenzie Weegar. Tell that. Can't say that enough.
So I love that look for Chris Tanev here. Also, just to mention, makes $4.5 million. So that would that slides in perfectly to imagine this team didn't have an injured Klingberg, and whatever their plan was for Klingberg, just put Tanev there instead, right? So it just makes it that much easier to make the money work, which is always an important thing to consider here. For him, like you said as well, only 7 points. So I can't imagine you can't be asking for a first for a guy like this. That's just crazy.
No, 7 points in and out of the lineup with injuries. It feels kind of in terms of value, in terms of trade value, it really does feel like Manson. But Manson didn't have very good public numbers, so people shit on that trade. Tanev does. So, but again, I think he's a decent puck mover. I think he's a good enough puck mover. He's smart. He's not going to skate the puck out, but I think he's a smart passer. So there's that. In terms of D-men, the Leafs do need a D-man. There's not too much available here at the moment. I will say that.
I mean, if I haven't looked enough into Sean Walker here, though. I don't know if you've looked at Sean Walker at all. I think it's someone
I haven't. I'm going to get to him, though.
Yeah, he's someone we should get around to because I think he's small, but he could work here. His underlying number. Yeah, he's from Toronto too. So his underlying numbers are actually really freaking good. Really, 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 really good. I'm just curious to see how he plays, what his style of play is, right? Because being 5'11" is not doesn't help you in top pairing minutes, especially considering like why Tanev I think is so important, like that this team needs to get is that like I know I often make fun of people who talk about size and stuff like that, but we are going to be playing Florida for sure. And then we're probably going to be playing one of Boston or whoever else. It's not an easy road, right?
No.
So
Florida's a good team. We way underestimated them.
Yeah.
Our team.
And our D are also kind of undersized. Like they're not the biggest. So
like got a point there. Yeah.
It's like, why not try and like build on that like weakness by getting a guy like Chris Tanev, who's I know he's only 3 inches bigger and he doesn't even play that like
he doesn't play big. He doesn't hit.
Yeah,
he's not
like
strong.
A hitter.
He's not strong. I think he's a little bit better in front of the net than like Brody is, even though I'm like the comparables are crazy, man. Like the Leafs, the Flames replaced Brody with Tanev. He did well, and the Leafs got Brody, so it's really, really funny that way. And Chris Tanev shoots right. You don't have a lot of right-handed defensemen. Really, you have Liljegren. That's it.
That as well. So
Sean Walker, I will say this. Do you know? So he played in a certain championship game. There's a few NHLers that came out of that game. They're in the NHL right now. Do you know which game I'm referring to?
Champion, like a minor league game? Like is that
junior? Where he played junior.
No idea.
OHL 2012, 2013 OJHL championships at the Shiverdome, St. Mike's. Newmarket versus St. Mike's. It went to Game 7. Guess who had 2 points in that game? Maybe even more. At least a goal. No, Mitch Marner, playing a year older. He was in minor midget that year. I still remember talking to someone on Newmarket, Tommy Bretta. I went to high school with him. And I was like, this Marner kid, he's going through all you guys. He was like 5'6" at the time. And he's like, I keep telling you, you got to hit him. You got to hit him. He can't. He can't. He's just too good. You know who else was on St. Mike's?
Who?
Jake Evans.
Wow.
Montreal Canadiens center. You know who else was on Newmarket? On defense as well.
I'm going to cheat right now.
Dermott.
Oh, interesting.
Travis Dermott. I don't think anyone else.
Dermott, yeah.
I think that's
I don't see anyone else. Goalie, maybe.
Yeah,
no.
That's the OJHL
That is a deep
history.
cut. That is a deep cut.
Pretty cool. Anyways, so Sean Walker, we'll take a look at him, see what the dealio is there. So that's a guy on the trade board that I took a look at. Like other defensemen on the trade, like Hanifin, I like. I think he's a solid defenseman. I don't think he's worth $1 billion. Like he was offered $60 million. That's just way too much for Noah Hanifin. And I think he is a decent two-way defenseman. I like some offensive ability in there.
Yeah, I like Hanifin. I think I just don't think we have the assets to acquire him. It just doesn't make sense. And
assets you don't have. He's not cap efficient enough. I don't think for that number it would be worth it.
Yeah, when you have you can't have him and Riley on the left side both. You know what I mean? Like we need more right side defensemen, like you said.
Yeah, you need right-handed defenseman. True. Even just like true actual. Yeah, you need someone on the right side there.
Yeah.
I will say this, every time I think of Noah Hanifin, like he was a top 4 pick or top 5 pick. He was number 5 to Carolina, right? And he's a good defenseman, right? Good top 4. He's a top 4 defenseman, I would say. Not a 1 or 2, but he's a top 4 defenseman. Craig Button in his draft here was like, I don't really see the offensive upside really there. I was like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot, whatever. He's been right though.
Yeah,
he was pretty spot on in his draft analysis. People don't give Craig Craig Button enough credit.
Don't give him enough buttons. Don't give Craig.
They don't give him enough buttons. And if you want to, a lot of people have been pulling up old Nylander clips, mainly me. If you want to hear a good analysis, listen to Craig Button after William Nylander got drafted and tell me that's not spot on. So, anyways, the defenseman I have notes on next that I'm going to talk about aren't really on these trade boards, but should I get into them?
Well, I have a question for you first. Let's say let's say we can't get
Tanev?
Chris Tanev for a unless we give a first, right? And we're not getting anything back.
Straight first.
And then also Sean, let's say same thing with Sean Walker here. So let's work our way down the TSN trade board, right? We've highlighted we need a right-hand defenseman. Philly won't part ways with Walker without a first. Calgary won't part ways with Tanev without a first. So we're stuck. So we go down to the next right-handed D on the board. And this is just purely off the top of your head, gun to your head kind of thing. Ilya Lyubushkin is the next guy on the board here. Are you interested at all in reuniting Ilya Lyubushkin and Morgan Riley as like a last resort?
It really depends on the price.
Let's say it's like a third or a fourth. It honestly feels like too much. But
maybe a fifth. Is Ilya Lyubushkin really an upgrade to what you have on the right side? Like, he makes you a little bit tougher, which is nice. He'll clear the front of the net more, which is nice. But
he also worked. I don't want to say he worked with Riley because it was kind of like it was not the
turned
best
over the puck
pairing.
a little bit too much.
Yeah, they were our worst pairing in that Tampa series. If you go back and look at expected goal numbers.
Okay, yeah, expected goals.
So it's a small sample though, obviously, but
yeah.
He
clears the front of the net well in term, like, and also
checks boxes that we needed checked.
Yeah. Like, as we mentioned, the Ilya Lyubushkin effect. Like,
yeah,
like it was something when you're lacking something so badly that you get like a decent someone that's okay at it, that he just seems way above what you have. It's like a relativity effect kind of thing. Lyubushkin, like, think about this though. Like, if you were to acquire Ilya Lyubushkin, I don't know about putting him with Riley.
Then I think that I would argue that there's no point in acquiring. Like, I know I brought it up to you, but like I would just say there's no point to acquiring him then, because you might as well just put
Lyubushkin versus Benoit. Like,
yeah, I guess, yeah. I
don't know. Kind of have Ilya Lyubushkin at home, right?
Yeah, you do.
To an extent, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, I don't know about that one.
The only problem is that, again, like, we want right side guys, right?
That's the thing. There's a right side guy here at number 12, Tyson Barrie.
No
chance.
No.
Well, third pairing, he makes a lot of money. That's the issue.
No,
and I don't think Nashville's going to be able to retain. And he has term left too, I believe, right?
No, he's a UFA. I'm
a UFA after this year?
Yeah, I'm striking that down though. I'm not allowing that. I will walk up to Leafs headquarters, Scotiabank Arena, and protest.
Come on, sheltered Tyson Barrie?
I don't think that's what we need. I don't think that's a need for us at all. It could help, but I don't think that's a need for us at all, honestly.
I have a feeling they wouldn't play it properly, so that's where it wouldn't work.
For sure.
But I think there would be some sort of addition. I mean, like, when you look at it, the Leafs defense has been abysmal offensively this year. And that's
true.
You kind of need some offense from your D.
That's very true.
You're not getting shots through. You're not getting any sort of offense. Like, there's Riley, and then it's McCabe after. And that's like, and then after that, it's like, okay, maybe Liljegren. I don't even know what he's been in and out. So it's been tough to gauge,
evaluate
numbers,
for sure.
But
no, that's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah. So I guess
again, you're not going to play him properly, so no.
Yeah, fair. And then last guy on the trade list here of all the right D available, Matt Dumba. I feel like that's like, he makes too much, and I feel like it's just not the right play style or archetype that we want. I feel like Matt Dumba's best years are behind him as well. So I don't know.
I took a look at a different defenseman in Arizona, so I didn't get to watch much of Matt Dumba.
Fair.
So I don't have a solid opinion on him. But again, he doesn't do much offensively. His numbers he plays a lot, I think.
He plays a ton of minutes.
Numbers weren't great. The one guy I was looking at was surprisingly the best expected goals for percentage out of all defensemen. It was a guy I looked at him because of you.
Yeah.
And he's not on this trade board at all.
Nope.
But Juuso Valimaki, I thought, was interesting.
Very, very interesting. The only problem with him is that I brought him up to you. He's a left-handed defenseman, so it's like
So that would mean it would be Riley Brody,
that's true.
Benoit on the right side.
Yeah.
The one issue that I have is that the one game I watched, it was against Ottawa. So I might have to save that one for next week because I was like, wow, this guy's moving the puck so well. And then I'm like, Ottawa's just not forechecking. Ottawa's just not playing defense in the neutral zone. Like, that's like saying, oh, you made a great outlet pass, like in a bowling alley. Like, okay, that's fantastic. So I'm gonna take another look at him, and I'll circle back. We'll circle back next week on Juuso Välimäki.
Just to like kind of elaborate a little bit,
even though they're not getting him, but
I doubt they get him. But there's like a small chance, and there's like a kind of thread that you can follow on him. First of all, he was drafted by Brad Treliving. He used to play for Calgary. Until I believe they put him on waivers. How did he get to Arizona? He was put on waivers.
Brad Treliving put him on waivers.
That's true. That's true.
Sent him away.
But I think that was not because of they thought that Shillington was going to play for them for sure, and like
it was Shillington started to Shillington played well. Shillington played very well
the year before.
Välimäki had torn his ACL. Välimäki was playing. He was like, it was like, okay, we got something in this kid. Then he tore his ACL, and it was just a long, long journey back. And it was like, okay. And they kind of set him free. And Välimäki had 34 points last year, which is good. But this year, I think he only has like 6. But
yeah, he's not doing very well. There's something there. His underlying numbers love his defensive play too. So like he's also big, 6'2", 205. Like kind of checks those. Again, doesn't play big, but fair. But just still checks boxes, which is nice to see here. It's just there's like a small thread of like, hey, maybe we could go out and get him. The only problem is again, he's not a UFA, he's an RFA, and obviously the Coyotes are in a playoff spot, so they probably do want to keep him. But I mean, I don't know. The Coyotes are in such a weird spot. They don't have a defenseman signed after this year. So
but him and Jersey are RFAs, aren't they?
Yes. Him and Jersey are RFAs. They have a bunch of RFAs.
Yeah, you have that at least, right?
Yeah. And interestingly enough, he plays PP1 for them too, but with Jersey. So they roll 2. I mean, that's crazy that a team is in the playoffs rolling 2 defensemen on their power play. No,
I think Jersey got injured. So he was playing. He's PP2.
Okay, so he has
PP2.
He has a ton of time on ice on the power play. So it must be from the Jersey stream.
He handles the puck well, but I'll get back to him next week. I do have one other defenseman.
Fire off.
I have notes on. He's not on the trade boards. Dave Pagnotta said that the Leafs checked in on him, so that's why I wanted to do a deep dive on him, and that is Mario Ferraro from King City, Ontario, left-handed defenseman for the San Jose Sharks. What the heck happened to my analysis? I had all these notes. Oh, there we go. So what is Mario Ferraro? I realize I said the Sharks stink. He was -3 last night. But he's trying hard out there. He had like 6 blocks, 6 hits. So he's to put it away, he's an effort-based player. When you watch a Mario Ferraro, forget analytics, forget scouting, whatever, you're just gonna go, wow, that kid loves to compete.
Yeah.
But he hits and he blocks a lot of shots. In terms of his numbers, they're not great, but his offensive numbers are up from last year in terms of individual. He has 56 shots this year. At the time I did that, he was 22nd amongst all defensemen. That's at 5-on-5. 8 points, which is 87th amongst all defensemen. 3.22 individual expected goals, which is 4th amongst all defensemen. And 63 shots blocked, which is 11th amongst all defensemen. Those are all at 5-on-5. His expected goals for, though, is at 41%. His PDO is a 947. Like, just getting bombed out there, essentially. But, so, the big question with him is his numbers are terrible. There's no doubt about it. His underlying numbers are horrible. Is it him or is it the team? That was something I really needed to decipher here. Why are his numbers as bad as they are? Because although you're playing big minutes on a bad team, is it partially you? You're out there a lot, right? Like you got to ask some questions. Like obviously on a good team, his numbers wouldn't be this bad. I don't think anyone's would be, right? But you got to ask the question, why are they as low as they are? To start off with his offensive game, it's limited. I don't like his hands. I don't think he's very skilled. Passing the puck, he's not great, not terrible, but not great, I would say. His speed, his straight line speed is decent. His edges are okay. Like I'd say his skating is okay. It's not bad. He seems to be in the right position more often than not. I watched the game. It was against the Devils and the Rangers. So two pretty good teams. And from what I saw defensive work, I saw him switching into good spots off the rush. Last night on the Holmberg goal, he really could have angled a lot better. He was in no man's land and it got chipped by him. But for the most part off the rush, it seemed like they were targeting Ty Emberson's side because that was a much easier entry. Ferraro will take the body on you. He will hit you pretty hard. So that's where you don't really want to get hit. So don't put it on his side. His stick game was okay. It was nothing great. Like that's in terms of, takeaways with your stick, like something TJ Brody, think prime TJ Brody. That was excellent. Ferraro was okay. Right. Like defending the cycle, he was all right. He seemed to be in good position. As I mentioned, his awareness seemed to be pretty decent, I would say. Again, blue line entries defense, as I mentioned, was all right too. Offensively limited. But what I noticed was there was a lot of extended cycles in the Sharks' end when Ferraro was on the ice. Forwards on the team are very bad. That's something you have to remember. They are terrible. They're lazy at times. And so it wasn't always his fault, but, he wasn't exactly intercepting cycles like I saw with Chris Tanev. Like Tanev, I saw intercept a lot. Like, how in the offensive zone on a cycle, players going up the boards, you throw it around the boards to get another guy on it to continue the cycle. Tanev did a good job of intercepting those. I've seen it in several games with him where he's able to intercept the cycle, move the puck up the ice. I didn't quite see that with Ferraro, which is an issue for a defensive defenseman. If you want to be a very good defensive defenseman, you got to then be able to move the puck up the ice at least, right? Mm-hmm. With him, it was a lot of glassing out. It was a lot of just hammer it off the boards, right? There was a couple interesting times where he would invite contact. It was smaller players, but like Jesper Bratt, like, okay, I'm just going to reverse hit you when I have the puck. So that was interesting. Again, loves to block shots, always blocking shots, always physical. And then you got to think, okay, so if he's on a better team, what does it look like? I think he will bring some, cycle defense, some entry defense. He'll bring some of that. Will the offense get better? Will he be jumping up more? Will he be more willing? Hey, I don't have these lazy idiots on my team. I don't know. That was inappropriate, but whatever. I don't have these guys on my team that are not good defensively. Maybe I can, as we've seen with Riley a lot, as we've seen with every Leafs defenseman, jump up into a rush to then get the defense guessing on who the puck's going to go to, not necessarily contributing, but being up there to create that distraction. Could he do that because he's a decent skater? Maybe. I didn't see a lot of jumping up offensively though from him. I didn't see him picking spots offensively to pinch, right? So will he do that on a better team? I don't know. He works hard. Maybe he'll be receptive to some different coaching. So yeah, as I mentioned, he'll block shots on the PK, defend the cycle, defend 6-on-5. Under heavy forecheck, he could struggle because he's not the greatest puck mover. Kind of reminded me a little like Ron Hainsey.
Okay.
Maybe a little better, like Ron Hainsey.
Glassing out guys. So what's your final verdict on him?
like you could do Riley, Brody, Ferraro, McCabe, Giordano, Liljegren. I don't think it's a good use of your assets, though. I understand he has term at 3.25. I don't think it's a good use of your assets, and I don't think you really should be looking for that.
Yeah.
Right. On a good team, I think he's a 5.
Okay.
You'd be playing him. You need a 4 at minimum. He's probably a 5.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, I don't think that it makes sense for the team just with like you said, the term and the assets you give up plus the amount he makes 3.25. I just don't see him fitting in our top 4. I think his flaws are too. He's a guy who would work as a third pairing guy, but again, he's making too much to be a third pairing guy, so doesn't work for me. I liked his play. The biggest problem I had was, like you said, I noticed exactly what you're saying in the puck handling and physicality thing. There was I only watched these last 2 games of him against the Leafs. I wasn't watching for him specifically, but there was a time where he turned over the puck at no one's fault other than his own, just mishandling the puck. And then also another play that sticks out in my mind was he was unable to gain body and physically dominate Nick Robertson, which is a big problem macro wise, because if you can't,
not huge.
Yeah. If you can't beat Robertson using your body, then who are you going to beat in the NHL, right?
Yeah.
So he does have the compete level there though, which is important to note. So yeah, I agree with.
He's playing first pairing with not another first pairing guy also.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, compete, but then you got also he's defensive defenseman. That Nylander goal that I mentioned, the behind the net one where there were several passes just in a high danger. It was pinball, him and Tavares. He was on the ice for that. He wasn't in a very good position, I would say. So I was like, But I thought his defensive positioning was all right it was good for the most part from what I saw against New Jersey and New York, but I saw a couple gaffes in the Leafs games. So yeah, it's unfortunate. You always want to add a guy that's, gonna go out there and fight hard. I think if the Leafs were to trade for him and he were to play, say, after 3 games, I think there will be people that will love him. Love that he's putting his body on the line, that he's hitting. I'm sure at home he would fight. He's not a fighter. I'm sure he would fight just to get people going. I don't think he's what you need. I don't think he's a good use of your assets. And I don't think he quite fills the need, I'll say.
Fair enough. All right. I appreciate that. That was good analysis. So yeah, not too many good pieces that are available on the board here.
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah. Tough. Cool. No Jake McCabe's available.
Nope.
So, those are the defensemen I had taken a look at. Additionally, I did take a little bit of a look at Mike Matheson. I don't think he's number 30 on this board. He makes $5 million for 2 years after this one. Good puck moving defenseman. I loved his ability to move the puck up the ice. I think he's, again, another second pairing guy, more offensively leaning. I like the skating. Yeah, again, I mentioned the offensive ability, but I don't think he's going to be moved quite yet. So
does he have term on his deal?
$5 million for next year and the year after.
Till 2026.
So I don't think he's going to be moved yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I think he could potentially fit, but I think he's a lefty too. So
yeah, he's left-handed.
I would like to see a right-handed defenseman.
That would be nice. We've been
missing out on we don't have any.
Yeah.
Crazy. But yeah. So those were a few trade targets. I did get some good notes on a Montreal forward, but we'll save that. Save that for another time. We're running pretty long on this one. Yeah. So yeah. Did you have anything else?
That's it for me. That's it.
Same here. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. We got so we got Thursday against the Isles, back to back. Who's going to be in net? Who knows? So a couple competitive games finally coming up. Thanks everyone for listening.
Go Leafs.